I'd like to call to order the January 7th,
This conference
2025
will
Board of
now be
Supervisors
recorded.
meeting. Invocation led by Supervisor Bender, then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody please stand. Please, Lord, bless this board, bless King George County, bless the United States of America and the world, and that we all have a pleasant and peaceful 2025. We can always believe and hope, and in your name, amen.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask at this moment if there's any amendments to the agenda. Okay, seeing none, moving on. Public comment. There's no public comment? No one signed up for public comment. Thank you very much, Ms. Fish. Is there anybody online who would like to speak under public comment? Is there, I know we have some participants. Anybody willing to speak? I see Ms. Parnell. Are you there? Would you like to speak? No, okay. Well, there is the second public comment. If she'd like to, Ms. Bender?
Mr. Smolik, Ms. Parnell had called me earlier today and said she would like to speak. If she is unable to, I can later in public. She prepared a statement and sent it to me.
Okay, we can do that later on. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to call for election of the Board of Supervisor officers. Call for nominations for the 2025 King George County Board of Supervisors Chairman.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Mr. Davis for the chairman of the board.
Second.
Mr. Davis, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
I now request a motion to close the nominations for chairman.
Make a motion that we close nominations for chair.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded. Is there any discussion? I'm going to ask for a roll call to close the nominations. Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll now ask for a motion to elect Mr. Davis as the 2025 King George County Board of Supervisors Chairman.
Make a motion that we elect Mr. Davis as the 2025 Board of Supervisors Chair.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote to elect Mr. Davis as chairman. Mrs. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Motion carries, and congratulations, Mr. Davis. Here's your, if you want that, if not, you're good to go. All right, thank you.
So next up will be the election of the vice chair to the Board of Supervisors.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Mr. Sullins as the vice chair, sir.
There's a second. I'm sorry, would you accept that nomination?
I do.
Is there a second? No?
I don't believe you need a second for nominations.
All right. What's the next one?
You make a motion to close the nominations for vice chairman.
I make the motion to close the nomination for vice chair.
Second.
So now we do a vote.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Any discussion on that? By roll call?
Close nominations.
Close nomination by roll call.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. The next is up is the motion for appointment of a clerk.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Now you're going to need a motion to elect Mr. Sullins as the vice chair. You're fine.
I've only seen this done once. So who would make a motion to elect?
Sir, I'd like to make the motion that we elect Mr. Sullins as the vice chair of the Board of Supervisors.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? By roll call, Bender?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Next step up is the appointment of the clerk. Is there any nominations for that?
I'll make a motion for Mr. Smolnik to be the clerk. That was done in the past.
Second.
Any other nominations? Are you nominating yourself?
Did you you made a nomination, Ms. Bender?
For the clerk for the Board of Supervisors, correct?
Yes.
Mr.
I made it
Chairman,
for Mr. Smolnik.
I think all you need is a motion to appoint Mr. Smolnik, the clerk of the board, with a second to that motion, and then you all can vote on that. Doesn't have to be a nomination process like it was for chair and vice chair.
Then I'll change my motion and make a motion to appoint Mr. Smolnik as the clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
That's second.
There we go.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next up is review and adoption of the bylaw, standards of conduct, and code of ethics. You guys want to do these line item by line item or do them all together?
Sir, does anybody have any changes? Because I don't think there's any changes to the ones we made last year at this point.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I had a couple of suggestions. I know we had mentioned the 4:30, but I know Mr. Solons does have a challenge to get here earlier for the board meeting, so that probably would not fly. One other thing I wanted to, on page 12, we had discussed this at another time, that if there was more than the majority of members would like something added onto the agenda, that if a majority asked, they could have something added to the agenda. As it stands now, the chair is the only one that sets the agenda. So that's one of the suggestions I had. And then I had asked for the bylaws and code of ethics, for the code of ethics, and there's 3 different documents, if they could be rolled into one or at least into 2 documents instead of having 3, because the code of ethics and the other documents sort of seem the same, and it's kind of silly to have 3 documents, and they can be condensed. Those are the only suggestions I had.
Sure, I like that, the one suggestion. I forgot about that. So Ms. Bender brought up about the majority being able to add to the agenda. I think that's a good change.
Is everybody else okay with that? Mr. Sell, do you have any other changes?
No.
Do we need to vote on that?
Mr. Chairman, just so I understand, so what you're saying is upon a majority vote, something could be added to the agenda? Or if 3 members agree, because typically you're going to want to do your agenda before the meeting. So I guess if you're just saying 3 members want something, then at least 3 members, then it would be added to the agenda.
That's correct. So they write in ahead of time, whether it's email or whatnot, and they request to be on the agenda, that is put on the agenda.
I got it.
So can I get a motion to accept them as they are without upon the changes?
I'll make a motion to accept the bylaws and rules of procedures for the King George County Board of Supervisors with the one change on page 12.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You want to discuss? Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to make sure, the piece that you brought up about combining those documents, did you want to go into that at all or just let it go?
maybe a discussion at the next board meeting, because we might have to have legal look at it to see how they can condense those two items. But when I read over both of them, it seemed there was a lot of, overlapping, and it's kind of silly to have two documents when they can be one.
I'm good now. Thank you.
There's a lot we could, Mr. Chairman, there's a lot we could cut out of this document if you all want me to, but it might take some time.
All right, next up is establishment of meeting schedule for the calendar year 2025.
You actually have to vote on that now.
Oh, we did.
Good discussion, then we got to vote.
Let's vote on, we got to vote on the bylaws.
If we're gonna vote, then I like the idea of having Mr. Stewart. He should have taken some time, which is fine, but those documents go into revision and we reduce them down. So I think everybody agrees with that.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I agree. It is going to take, because when I keep reading this over and over again, it seems it's too many pages. A lot of the same information repeated.
Want to push that off to a further to another meeting?
Yeah, however long it takes for them to.
So I guess
Mr.
I would
Chair,
just ask, is it,
You got a motion on the table, you gotta take care of the motion before you can do anything.
Want to take back your motion?
It doesn't have to, it can fail.
or if it's
If the
the
motion's
will-
on the table, not been amended,
Mr. Collins is right. If it's a, excuse me, if it's the will of the board, Mr. Smolnick and I can go through it and try to clean it up over and bring something back to the board to adopt. Or you can do a motion that's already on the table.
Can I make a friendly amendment to the motion?
did you make the motion?
No.
Who made the original? Okay,
I'd like to move that we accept the documents as presented until such time that the county attorney and the county administrator can come up with a revised version that we can consider and adopt those down the road. This gives us something official that we can work with until then.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question for Mr. Sullins.
Sir.
With that change on page 12 being accepted as part of the motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's all I want to clarify. Then I'm agreeing with the friendly, I'll second that one.
That's technically, you had a motion on the floor. Ms. Bender would have to withdraw her motion, but I think Mrs. Bender is accepting that as an amended motion. And then someone else seconded it. We're clear on that.
She did.
I think maybe somebody else other because it was really hard.
I'll second the amended motion, sir.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Next up, the establishment of the meeting schedule for calendar year 2025. The only thing I see on there, I think so far, is we have a board meeting on on election day, so we have to figure that one out. Ms. Bender will be busy. Is there another date that works for that one? The Wednesday or the Thursday after, or the Monday before?
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Smolnick's working on that, we skipped over the standards of conduct and code ethics. So you might want to go back to that after you do the meeting schedule.
All right, we'll do that.
Mr. Chairman, so election days, Tuesday, November 4th. If you want to move it to the 3rd, I believe this past year we moved it to the Monday before. If the board members, if you have your schedules handy, if you can see if that day works for you.
Mr. Chair, I have no problem. It's just making sure, because usually VACO is that weekend afterwards, that we be careful of that too.
Right.
Howard, you got any comments? Further?
So I guess is there looking for a motion to adopt the schedule with the change of the first November meeting from Tuesday, November 4th to Monday, November 3rd.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, back to the review and adoption of the standard of conduct. Are there any changes anyone wish to make to that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is what I had suggested, that we look at legal to condense these into one document instead of two
That's
documents.
what you're talking about. But we can make a motion today to accept it as it is upon further
To have
check.
something, to have a voted on ratified document, and then we can work off of that and bring something back to you all for both documents, the 2025 Standards of Conduct and the 2025 Code of Ethics.
If it helps, my friendly amendment earlier, that's what I intended to try to convey, that we take all three of these and accept them until you guys get a look at it.
That's why I skipped over because I thought that.
That's what y'all.
Okay, so okay.
We thought we had voted on that because.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
All right. Meantime,
No, back to the state now.
yep, so state calendar 2025 year. Is there any motions?
Quick question, Mr. Chair. Is this for the employees to follow? Is there a reason for adopting the state calendar?
I don't think we need to adopt it. I think it's just so you all CP is per the county's personnel policy, meaning we follow the state calendar. So I think this is more of an information. This is set by the state, and this is what the county will follow per policy.
I just want to clarify, we don't need a motion on
I
that.
don't think you need a motion on it, just for informational purposes. Yes, ma'am.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could probably do 01 through 04, 0104 through 0106 in one motion.
I'll do it. So I'll go with 0104. I'll make a motion to adopt 0104 to 0106 as presented.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Next up for us, the appoint members to the King George County Service Authority and Board of Directors. Do I have a nomination? Do I have a nomination for the Board of Directors, Supervisor? Or Chair, I'm sorry.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Kathy Bender.
Second.
Well, hold on a minute.
These are appointments to the Board of Directors.
Right. That's one.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're
All
right.
right.
I'll make the motion for Sully for that. We good with that? All right, so I'll make a motion to accept for the at-large district for the Board of Directors for the Service Authority, Mr. Sullins; for the Dahlgren District, Mr. Davis; for the James Madison District, Lee Robotham. Did I get it correct? Yes. And for the James Monroe District, Mr. T.C. Collins; and for the Shiloh District, myself, Kathy Bender.
Second.
Motion made, properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now call for a recess of the King George County Board of Supervisors meeting.
And I'd like to call to order the 2025 Board of Directors meeting of the King George County King George County Service Authority. The first item on the list is to elect a chairman of the Board of Directors. So I'm calling for nominations for the 2025 King George County Service Authority Board of Directors Chair.
For now, I'd like to nominate Ms. Kathy Bender for the chair.
Second.
Okay, motion made, properly seconded. Is there any discussion? By roll call vote, Ms. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Collins,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Robotham, Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that, let me back up. I want to make sure it's right. So the first motion should have been to close the floor for nominations. So is there a motion made, properly seconded? Technically, we should close the floor for nominations. So is there a motion to close the floor for nominations for Service Authority Board Chair?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Okay, so now I'm looking for a motion to elect Mrs. Bender as the 2025 Service Authority Board of Directors Chair.
Mr. Small, before you do that, can we have Lee come up? I'm going to stand here so we don't have to move the chairs all much, so Lee can be part of this. Take
Mr.
the empty
Robotham?
seat.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. So now I'll look for a motion to elect Mrs. Bender as the 2025 King George County Service Authority Board of Directors Chair.
So moved.
Second.
Made and properly seconded.
Mr. Stroud can't make this second.
Thank you.
Oh, I appreciated it.
Yeah, you're
Your
Second.
motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Okay, by roll call vote, Ms. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Collins.
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Robotham,
Aye.
Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Bender.
All right, with that being said, I'll take over and I would like to hear nominations for the vice chair of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors.
I'd like to nominate Lee Robotham as vice chair.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Mr. Robotham, would you like to serve in that capacity?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
then you have to close the floor for nominations. I'm
Right.
sorry, I should.
We have to take the nomination first, right? And then close the floor by vote. That's first. But thank you for reminding me. Have the nomination, I would have a motion to close the nominations.
I make a motion.
Right? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Motion properly seconded. All those in favor for closing the nomination?
Aye.
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 Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Now, next up is can I have a motion to elect Lee Robotham as the vice chair of the King George County Board of Directors of the Service Authority?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Lee. You'll do a great job. All right, next up is the review and adoption of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors Rules and Procedures.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I believe that the SA 0103 is the appointment of the secretary
thank you.
/ treasurer.
A lot of stuff on our plates here. Thank you for reminding me. Do I have a motion for an appointment of a secretary treasurer for the Service Authority? Any motion? In the past, it was the general manager. And we'll be bringing in the next meeting in January, the job description for the general manager. So how do you guys feel? What would you like to do in that? In the past, it was the general manager.
How much of a time jump is that? How much responsibility?
Matt, can you give a better overall?
I mean, over the last year, I know Ms. Fish has been serving in this capacity, and part of it, much like her duties that she's been filling over this past year to the board of supervisors, it's compiling the agenda, making sure the items are there, linking everything online, and I wanted to let you all know, per the current rules and procedures as they're stated, the secretary and treasurer are one position. This next item down, I just want to put this on your radar. We want to look at this because the treasurer capacity is actually the treasurer of the county, Mr. Randy Jones. But the way it's set up right now, one person serves as the secretary treasurer. It'd be my recommendation that the next item on the agenda to direct staff to look at these to clean them up, much like we did the Board of Supervisors bylaws and whatnot, other documents.
One suggestion I would have is to keep Ms. Fish in this role until we get a new general manager, would be one suggestion I would have, if she would be willing to do it. Since she's already,
I will be willing to do that as long as I'm not treasurer.
Don't they go together though?
Right.
Your foundational documents require to be the same person. What Matt is suggesting is that maybe next month, we can make some changes to those foundational documents and you can have a secretary and a treasurer, and your treasurer should probably be the county treasurer anyway, because he handles the money for the county otherwise. But for tonight, we need one person to be the secretary treasurer until we can change these documents.
That's correct.
Mr. Stewart, then could be a suggestion for a motion to be for 1 month until we bring back,
I wouldn't do that.
just leave it the way it is?
I would make have a motion to have some individual serve in that capacity until we can change things, but you wouldn't want things to run out. If important business needed to be conducted, you'd have to call a special meeting or something like that.
Got it. Just put out a suggestion. Do I have, anybody have suggestions?
Can you handle it under those terms?
Yes, sir. I can handle the terms, and I appreciate the nomination as long as it's fixed at a later point in time.
The question up here from our distinguished colleague is, do we have to wait till next month, or can it just be the next meeting that we fix this?
Yeah, he can't hear you.
Sorry. Instead of waiting until next month, we're going to wait until next meeting to correct it.
We can, if it's the direction of the Board of Directors, we can get right on this, and we should be able to have something to you by the next meeting. If not, it will be the first meeting in February. But I agree with Mr. Stewart. I will not put a timeline on it just in case something comes up.
Ms. Fish, you would be willing to serve in that capacity until we amended the,
Yes, Madam Chair.
okay, thank you. Any other questions or a motion?
I get seconded.
Did we make, oh, yep, just a second. Who made the motion? I've got it. Mr. Solons?
I don't think we made a motion.
Then I'll make a motion that we appoint Ms. Fish as the Secretary Treasurer for the Board of Directors.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Fish. Now, we're going to move on down to the review and adoption of the Board of Directors Rules and Procedures. And this was another thing that we might want to have Mr. Stewart look at and change, including the title of the Rules and Procedures, because it should, Mr. Stewart, it should be considered the same as the Board of Supervisors, correct? The title?
Madam Chair, we just noticed that per the code, they're supposed to be called bylaws of the King George County Service Authority rather than rules and procedures. So if you all choose to adopt these tonight, I would ask that you adopt them as presented with one amendment, and that amendment is that rather than rules and procedures, it's bylaws of the King George County Service Authority. And then I'm happy to go through and try to clean it up or shorten it, whatever the board directs us to do.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Madam Secretary, I move that we approve and accept the rules and procedures of the Board of Directors for King George County Service Authority, with the exception that we change the name to the bylaws of the Board of Directors of King George County Service Authority.
Second.
A motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. For the Secretary of Treasury, do we need to make a motion for that too? Do you look at that, or is that going to be part of those bylaws? It was for the bylaws. Do we need to do something separate for the Secretary Treasurer?
So as far as the title is what you're asking
Yes.
about, I think you just direct county administrator and interim county attorney to work on the newly adopted KGCSA Board of Director bylaws to to look specifically at the secretary/treasurer position and any other cleanups that we feel pertinent to bring back to you in the near future.
And that could be by consensus, correct?
Yes.
Do we have a consensus for that, for staff to look at? All right. All right, we will move on and establish the regular meeting dates, which usually are in the same line as the Board of Supervisors. Do I have a motion or a discussion on that? Maybe keeping it exactly what we just adopted for the Board of Supervisors with the change to November 3rd instead of November 4th?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move the Board of Directors meeting from November 4th, 2025 to November 3rd, 2025.
And adopt the rest of it as is?
Yes, adopt the rest as is.
Do I have a second? Motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. Collins, do you have?
Could you restate the motion?
The motion would be to adopt the regular meeting schedule that is presented in the document, but with one change, moving from November 4th to November 3rd.
Thank you.
So I have a motion properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Then the establishment of place. Can I have a motion? It would be the board of the Rivercombe building located at 10459 Courthouse Drive.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next up is the establishment of time. Do we want to keep it the way it has been? Okay, and so do we need a motion for that or to establish time? Okay, can I have a motion?
Make a motion that the Board of Directors time be consistent with the 2024 schedule
What time was it? 5:30?
at 5:30.
Okay. We have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Now, next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? We have a motion properly second on closed discussion. This is by roll call vote. Mr. Collins?
Yay?
Was that a nay?
Yay.
Yay. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Solons?
Aye.
Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next up is an action item that came up in the last couple of weeks. And we have Mr. John Eisenbeis here to give us a little background information. This is a new screen and a repair to the MN bar screen for the Service Authority for $71,731. Mr. Eisenbeis, can you come up and answer some questions and some more information?
Is there anything anybody would like to know? Start off with. This is a bar screen that screens all the waste materials out of the wastewater. Basically, if you picture an escalator, as the trash comes in with the wastewater, it picks it up and runs it up and then puts it in a dumpster. It's approximately 13 years old. It's been repaired many times. The repair cost for the current unit we have is 2/3 of what a new one is. We basically have the same old piece with new parts in it, but we still have the same old piece. So with talking with Norm, he recommended we just go ahead with the new one. We have a 26-week lead time, and we'd probably need to correct that amount of 71 to add the 5,000 in shipping onto that.
For the freight cost, correct? I have something that Norm has given to me to read also with what John has explained. On December 26, 2024, John Eisenbeis informed me that the micro screen at the Dahlgren wastewater treatment plant had failed. He obtained 2 quotes from the vendor to replace it with a new screen or repair the old screen. The quote for a new screen is $71,731, and to repair the existing screen would cost $45,960. Neither of these quotes include the freight costs. The repair cost would be approximately 64% of the price of a new micro screen. This equipment handles a significant amount of corrosive elements passing through it to protect the operation of the plant's treatment process. I do not believe the repair costs at this percentage justify this option. The acquisition of a new microscreen would make the most economical option for the board of directors. I have explored the options of other vendors who provide microscreens to perhaps lower the cost for the equipment. Unfortunately, they are a sole source for this equipment that interfaces with what they call the muffin monster, or a highly efficient grinder for those items that make it past the microscreen. The plant design does not permit such a change without costly changes to the infrastructure at the wastewater treatment plant. It is my recommendation to purchase the new screen. So is there any other questions for Mr. Eisenbeis? Mr. Davis?
What you said, what you say the repairs were, the cost?
The repair cost would be $45,960. Go ahead, Mr. Solons.
I assume the new one comes with some kind of warranty too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a year warranty.
Is there, Mr. Robotham?
Just, if we're to make a motion, do we need to include the freight costs in the motion that's listed?
Yes.
$5,000 flat.
This is coming from overseas, and that's why the 6-month lead time, correct?
Correct.
Do I have any other questions, or would somebody like to make a motion concerning this?
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the ordering of the new screen at the total cost of $76,731.
Second.
The motion properly seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam
Go
Chair,
ahead.
sorry, your motion was actually to purchase that, not just to order it, correct?
Correct.
Do I still have a second on the amended agenda? So motion properly seconded. Any discussion? This is by roll call vote. Mr. Collins? Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Solons?
Aye.
Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, John. All right. Does anyone, now we have only informational items. I do want to thank just out in the public for Mr. Eisenbeis and his maintenance staff and all the work they've been doing with the wells. We did one well that had some issues over the holidays, and their team worked all night and worked long hours to keep the water running for the circle system, and a couple of other things that have happened. It is cold weather. Pipes do break. Issues do happen, especially with the water. So I do want to thank him and staff and all the snow plowing they did yesterday. So I appreciate the effort you've put in and everybody's effort. Does anyone else have any comments as a board for the Service Authority, or I'll make for public comment for this section? That being said, does anyone have any public comment for the second, for this part of the Service Authority? Is anybody online for the Service Authority? No. Any correspondence? No. With that being said, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn until January 14th, 2025 at 5:30 PM in the Robert H. Combs boardroom.
Second.
Motion properly second. Any further discussion?
Which is
Is the 14th correct?
21st.
Yep.
It's 21st? I was like, wait a minute, 14th. Let's do that motion all over again. Rewind.
I like y'all so much. I want to see you every week. No, I make a motion that we adjourn to January 21st at 2025 at 5:30 PM in the Robert H. Combs boardroom.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The Service Authority portion is adjourned, and we will reconvene back with the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. First up we have here is reports of the member of the board. Bender, I'd like to start with you.
All right, thank you very much. As I said, I thank Mr. Eisenbeis and his staff for all the work they've done with the Service Authority. I also wanted to thank our county's maintenance staff for plowing the driveways and keeping it so that our citizens can come in our facilities and our employees. And then the last thing I want to have a shout out, I want to thank the King George High School Band and the members of the band who came out and played for Healthy Generations Christmas party that we held here at the King George Citizen Center. The seniors really appreciated the small little interlude, and they really were singing along and enjoying the production. I want to thank them for bringing over some students to be able to play for the senior citizens of our community and the region. So thank you. That is all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. Mr. Collins.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Mr. Sullins.
It was a pretty quiet 2 weeks. The only thing I want to say is I got to attend an Eagle Court of Honor for a young lady, Callie Landreth, and she is the third female Eagle Scout in the Mattaponi district, but she's the first second generation Eagle Scout. So way to go, Callie.
Mr. Sellers, Mr. Stroud.
Sure, thank you. I would just like to thank all the employees of the county over the holidays because it takes extra effort to decorate doors, put out the extra effort to show holiday cheer. I mean, that's what gets people motivated and really helps people enjoy the holidays. It's a very busy time of the year and everybody's rushing around, and it's appreciated that people do that. And I know I appreciate it. And I thank everybody that did that. That's all I've got, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. I also want to echo just thank you to all the employees. Thank you to VDOT. I thought the roads looked pretty good and everything was cleaned up pretty quick. I haven't had a chance to talk to Sheriff Giles. I did reach out to Chief Moody just to see how things are going and wish them the best of luck and the best of safety and see if they need anything, reach out to me. I think that everything went pretty smoothly. I didn't hear of anything, so that's always a plus when the snow comes. So we'll close out the reports of the members of the board. Next up is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion probably second. Any discussion? All right, by roll call, Ms. Bender.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next up is the ceremonial presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with Mrs. Bender. Would you meet me down? Is it good? You hear me? So just wanted to, on behalf of the entire board of directors, board of supervisors, and all the county staff members and the citizens here, just want to say thank you for your hard work and dedication this past year as the board of directors and chair. You've also the acting general manager. So you've had your hands full in the service authority. So I want to present you with this, and I appreciate your service to King George County.
Thank you so much.
And Mr. Collins. So Mr. Collins is wrapping up his year as chairman of the King George County Board of Supervisors. He is my first chair that I've worked for as the county administrator. I appreciate his guidance and leadership. And again, thank you for all your dedication to the board and to the citizens and for helping King George County move along in this time of transition. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Smolnick. I'd like to make a comment on that. I just want to say I don't think more has been done on the service authority level than the past year, Ms. Bender. So thank you very much for all you do there. Norma said you're a great asset and a great help to him. So just keep up the good work. We really appreciate you. Mr. Collins, I'd echo that to you as far as being the chair of our board of supervisors. I think we accomplished more in a year that's been accomplished in many years ahead of that in a short period of time. So thank you for your service as well. No regional reports, no agency reports, no public hearings, so we move on to the action items. First up is 01-09 Walnut Hill, Chief Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney, Mr. Charlie Clark.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
So reading the closed session from that I was absent at last meeting, 11707 talks about the closed meeting for Walnut Hill. My understanding, Mr. Clark, that Lake Caledon was discussed also at that meeting.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So the closed meeting was not properly called to discuss Lake Caledon in this calling.
Mr. Chairman, I would disagree. When the closed session was called, it was called for Walnut Hill. Lake Caledon is obviously not before the board in any capacity that I'm aware of. But I looked this up specifically because I thought you would have a concern. And in section 2.2, 3711, which governs the closed meetings, in section 7, it reads consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation. And I believe that during negotiations, which were in closed session and are privileged because it was between the board as client and counsel, that there were certain aspects of Lake Caledon that were pertaining to those negotiations. So I would disagree with you. I think it was properly called.
So can I, Mr. Chairman, can I ask him another question in this? So any possible or probable litigation, there was no possible or probable litigation for Lake Caledon. Is that correct?
No, sir. What was before the board is an appeal that Walnut Hill filed at the end of 2023. And during the negotiations of that settlement, the Lake Caledon issue came up and was pertinent to those negotiations. And that's about as much as I think we can say based upon the attorney-client privilege of conversations in closed session.
So the reason why you were in closed session was for a rezoning that had already been decided. And then there was a matter before the circuit court in regards to that rezoning. And the call was to go back and for closed session for discussion in Walnut Hill with legal counsel and briefings by staff members and consultants where such consultants or briefing an open meeting would ask for us to reflect negotiating and litigating posture of the public body. Invite the county administrator, the chief deputy, Commonwealth Attorney, counsel for jail properties, members of jail properties as needed because they're deemed necessary. Their presence reasonably aid the board in consideration of one or more of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Code Section 2.2-3712F. There was nothing in there for possible or probable litigation.
So at this point, Mr. Collins, I believe that the advice that I can give is I believe it was properly called. I believe it was properly certified. And I don't think that I can comment on any of the negotiations that happened in closed session because they're attorney-client privileged, and you would need, I believe, a motion and a vote to talk about that stuff openly amongst all 5 members of the board.
Okay, so can I mark my protest to the closed meeting, Mr. Chairman, that it was not properly called?
So I'll allow that.
Okay. Secondly, this is on for an action item. It never has come up for a discussion item yet. Why is it pushed to discussion? I mean, to action when it hadn't been discussed in open meeting?
I would disagree with you, Mr. Collins, on that. I think this has been being discussed for about 7 years. This doesn't have anything to do with approving Walnut Hill. To my knowledge, it has to do with the litigation. Is that correct?
Has to do with the county's efforts to settle what is currently an appeal to a rezoning decision.
So this information was not brought in front of the public. Is it correct for me to assume that the conditions have changed in the negotiation settlement?
They have significantly, yes. There's been changes to proffers.
So it should be in an open meeting so it can be transparent to the public and for discussion before it goes to action.
On that legal point, I would disagree with you as well, Mr. Collins. I believe that because this particular settlement agreement, as I can speak to in a moment, this particular settlement agreement calls for the circuit court to enter an order. Because the circuit court would be entering an order, the board, through its consent in the agreement, would be agreeing to have that matter reheard by court order. So it's by court order. It's not a separate legislative action. And there has been public hearing on the issue, and I don't believe on that basis that you would need to have a separate public hearing, because it's simply a reconsideration that is ordered by the circuit court.
So it shouldn't be for action if it's for reconsideration. Is that correct?
Whether or not it's up for discussion or action, I believe is a matter of policy for this board. Anything I think can be called as an action item at any point in time. You could move to accept or take any action at any point in time as long as it's proper. It didn't require public hearing, things like that.
That's true, but we have been following the Robert's Rules of Order where discussion and then one meeting and action the next. First call, second call. So I'm not arguing that with you, sir. But in the litigation, in the agreement that's going to the circuit court for the circuit court to agree to, is there not reference to Lake Caledon?
No, sir.
So Lake Caledon has nothing to do with the rezoning of this agreement.
All I can say is that Lake Caledon was pertinent to negotiations in closed session. There is nothing legally binding between the board and anything to do with Lake Caledon. That is correct.
So any discussion that was had in regards to Lake Caledon in closed session is not, can't hold the applicant to that. Is that correct?
I believe we would be getting into negotiations that happened in closed session. I wouldn't feel comfortable breaking privilege on that.
So the question was, if in closed session, when it talked about Walnut Hill and Lake Caledon came up, that wasn't in the call, but it was pertinent to the discussion from your statement. And there's an agreement that goes to the circuit court. And it's pertinent to the discussion, pertinent to the agreement, but the board cannot hold the applicant responsible for the agreement. How does that work?
That's a matter of specifics of the negotiation, which again, I can't speak to. That was in closed session.
All right, this time, Mr. Payne, I'd just like you to give us your brief on this, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Walnut Hill Development Corporation and NVR Incorporated had previously applied for rezoning of Walnut Hill development property from A2 to R3 to accommodate some townhomes in addition to single-family dwellings. They had also asked for 3 related special exceptions. After public hearing and comment, the board denied the rezoning request. And one of the 3 special exceptions, that all happened on December 19th of 2023. The developers appealed that decision to circuit court. They did so, and I checked within the 30-day requirement. Notably, service of that suit was withheld. And Walnut Hill had reached out about the possibility of settlement of that appeal. I was retained as special counsel to represent the board's interests in this negotiation, and I've worked with counsel for Walnut Hill in writing a proposed settlement agreement that will, 1, protect the county's interests, 2, address the board's concerns, and 3, attempt to avoid the high costs of litigation. That agreement, in summary, calls for the following: that the previous decision of the board regarding the rezoning request and the remaining special exception will be declared void by the circuit court, and that matter will be remanded back to the board for reconsideration. Walnut Hill will revise the rezoning application and increase the school profit from $240,000, which was in effect on December 19th of 2023, to $440,000. I'll note that that number was proffered. It was in no way requested by any member of this board. Walnut Hill will also agree to a phasing proffer that will limit development to 33 units per year, with the goal of alleviating pressure on schools and various county services. The amended application with those items will then be considered on the board's agenda as soon as practical. This will happen after entry of that circuit court order. The board, per the agreement, will then approve the rezoning and exception based upon the amended proffers, and no further public hearing is required, as I had discussed with Mr. Collins. The agreement does not in any way concede any defense the county would have an appeal. It simply addresses the rezoning decision. The agreement just settles the appeal with the benefit to both parties. Walnut Hill, in a sign of good faith, has also agreed to pay for all costs incurred in negotiating the settlement, so the county wouldn't be out in that regard. Throughout negotiations, I will say that Walnut Hill and council have been accommodating and professional to me. The matter has been discussed at length, both amongst the parties and board members and council. I'm happy to go to circuit court and have the matter settled in accordance with the agreement, if that's the will of the board. Mr. Chairman, I'll leave that question to you.
Any comments from members of the board? Mr. Clark, what's our next step?
At this point, I believe you would need a motion to accept the settlement agreement and direct me to go to the circuit court and have the matter settled. And we'll move from there.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Clark be allowed to settle the matter and go to circuit court and settle the matter with the circuit court.
And that would be within the terms of the
In
agreement.
the terms of the agreement, yes, sir.
Second.
Motion probably second. Any other discussion? Mr. Collins?
Again, I want to say that it was an improper call for the closed session to even discuss that. There was add-on in there about Lake Caledon, which is shouldn't be pertinent to a rezoning case. And the possible or probable litigation was not in the call either. Thank you.
So noted. Any other discussion? We need to do a roll call on this.
I would, yes.
Do a roll call on this, Ms. Bender.
Aye.
Collins.
Yay.
Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
And Mr. Chairman, I will get back in touch with the board once that step has taken place, and we'll figure out what we need to do next on the agenda.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, 01-10, consideration of appointments to the board, members to area boards and commissions. Ms. Bender?
Yes, in the past, we would list them one by one, but if everyone would like to serve on all the other committees, I don't mind making a motion to just leave it the way it is. And if there's any other positions that someone might like to step down from, what is your?
I'm okay with that as long as there's no other changes by any members of the board. So I'd like to address those.
I do have one motion.
Yes, Mr. Sullins.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Stroud as our liaison with the fire and rescue.
There's a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Stroud. I guess we need to make a motion to do we need to make a motion to just accept them?
Yeah. I can make that motion. I would like to make a motion with that minor change that Mr. Sullins made, and it was accepted, that the slate of the boards and commissions that the supervisors serve on stay the same as last year.
Second.
Motion probably second. Any discussion?
Yes,
Yes, sir, Mr. Collins.
I'd like to step down from the Rappahannock Regional Jail.
Need to vote on that. Accept your resignation.
We need somebody to fill that position. And one thing, it is in the middle of the day, just to clarify, correct, Mr. Collins, it's like 12:30? 1 o'clock?
We don't have to fill that position today.
What day is it? What day of the week is it? Is it a set day of the week? Mr. Collins? Do we know ahead of time?
Mr. Smolnik does serve on that. When do you meet, Mr. Smolnik?
I think, I want to say it's every quarter, once a quarter, and it is like at 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon. It's about a 30-minute ride from here at the jail itself.
I can do that. So nominate myself if I can.
I can amend my,
Yes.
yes. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the slate of the boards and commissions that all the supervisors serve on based on the 2024 lineup, except for the regional jail board with Mr. Stroud taking Mr. Collins' place, and Mr. Stroud then also taking Mr. Collins' place on the fire and rescue liaison.
Second.
Motion probably second. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. So we don't need to go through all the rest of them here then, do we? Right. Next up is the county administrator's report. Mr. Matt Smolnik.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing, I really don't have anything for the board. I do just want to echo some of the comments made by some of the board members for the hard work of our first responders, but also it's I know I talked to Mr. Muncie. He was up at 3 o'clock yesterday, him and his crew working to clear sidewalks, plow parking lots and whatnot, and then also with the service authority, I saw their trucks running all over the road. So, in addition to our first responders, I want to give a shout out to them and also to VDOT. VDOT was very good in their communication with this storm, moving a lot of equipment from other localities down the northern neck here to King George. So they were on it, and I really want to thank Mr. Beal and his cooperation. So other than that, just looking forward to 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smolnik. This information item, the statement of economic interest, that's due by all board members, right?
Mr. Chairman, if you all have any difficulty with that, I've been doing these for a lot of years. I'm happy to help.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
the action items, do we need to appoint the slate that's listed here? The Tourism Advisory Committee and Social Services and Admin Board? It's on the last page. It's under an action item.
With the Tourism Advisory Committees.
Mhm.
Yes, we need to nominate them and reappoint them.
I can make a motion to do the whole slate at one shot. I'll make a motion to approve 0110.01 all the way down to 0110.03.1. The BZA has a vacancy, so that's the motion I'll make.
Second.
Motion properly second. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Have we talked to all these people, or do they know this is coming?
These are the appointments that have been on. I think we started in November with the board agendas. So they've had this. You've had this for a little while now. I'm not sure if you've reached out to your constituents to make sure they do want to serve. I have not heard any opposition. I haven't heard one way or the other from anybody on this list.
I did reach out to a few of mine, and they said they wouldn't have an issue serving again. But if they do, they'll write back in. All right. So we need to take a vote on that. Ms. Bender,
Aye.
Mr. Collins,
Aye.
Mr. Sellens.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Next up is the secondary public comment. I'd like to keep all comments down to 3 minutes to give everyone a chance to speak. Do we have anyone here that wants to speak? Is there anybody online? Doesn't appear to be. So we'll close out secondary public comment.
Hold on a second. Mr. Chair, can I read Ms. Parnell's? Because she did ask me to read it if she was not able to.
Yes, please do.
Okay, my name is Mary Parnell. I am the co-founder and board chair of Exodus Family Institute, INC, a 501c3, bringing permanent housing opportunities to the local workforce, specifically teachers, first responders, and healthcare employees. These workers are often our community heroes and are challenged to live and work in the same community. The current housing crisis is well documented and not only affects current workers, but can create barriers to retention and recruitment in the workforce. I reached out to each board member last month and connected with many of you regarding obtaining the board's approval for Exodus to apply for Community Development Block Grant Funding, CDBG, for roads and infrastructure for the 21 homes Exodus plans to build on 16 acres in the Shiloh district. Exodus preliminary engineering plan projects the cost of roads and infrastructure for the 21 homes would add approximately $100,000 to the cost of each home. CBG funding would go a long way in assisting to keep the price of these homes attainable. Exodus is committed to bringing permanent workforce homes and was founded by Reverend Dr. Ben Jones, now deceased. He was pastor of a local King George church for 10 years. Exodus mission grew out of church ministry and has always focused on human services to improve the well-being of brothers and sisters in the community. Exodus has strong community ties because of the work of Dr. Jones, and as such, the housing project is called Homes by Jones. And all outreach efforts to date have been focused on current King George residents. There have been 2 community events and 2 budgeting and finance classes held in King George. The 21 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom permanent will lay the foundation for building generational wealth. Exodus tagline HYCA, homes you can afford, makes the case very well that Exodus is the bridge in the community for attainable home ownership. The Exodus workforce housing will have a positive impact and not detract from the nature of the community. In closing, our request is to get on your next board agenda and obtain approval to apply for the CDBG funding. We are not asking the county for funding, and much of the development of the application will be provided by the George Washington Regional Commission. Thank you for your time, Mary Parnell.
Thank you, Mary Parnell. Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? All right, so we'd like to can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll read the whole thing. I haven't done this in a while. I will make a motion to adjourn to January 21st, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in the Robert H. Combs boardroom.
For a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed, meeting closed. Thank you very much.